Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another insightful episode of the Caribbean and Beyond. I am your host, Emmanuel Paul, and today we're embarking on a journey that transcends borders, delving into the heart of the Caribbean to explore its richest history, vibrant culture, and the untold stories that shapes its people. In this podcast, we uncover the unique perspective of the Asian community in the US and around the world, shedding light on their experiences, challenges, and triumph from politics to culture, economics, immigration, diplomacy. Our conversation navigate through the diverse landscape and to offering you a comprehensive view of the Caribbean from the lens of its resilient people. So without further ado, in today's episode, we will talk about diplomacy, and we could not be better to have the best guest with us, former Ambassador Daniel Foote. He was the United States Special Envoy to Haiti. He worked for many years at the US Embassy in Haiti. He also served in many other countries in the Caribbean, Latin America, and other countries. Hi, Mr. Hood. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to have you today.
I'm doing great, Emmanuel. Very nice to see you, my friend. Thank you.
We always have you as a regular guest on our program on the Caribbean Television Network. Today, this is a very new adventure for us with our new podcast, The Caribbean and Beyond. And we could not be happier to have you as our very first guest. So tell us who you are. People who don't really know who Dan Foote is. Tell us about yourself.
Dan Foote is a simple guy from upstate New York, where I am now. I've moved back to Buffalo, where I'm from, who grew up in a middle class, blue collar situation, and was blessed to be able to go to school in New York City and play football and eventually become a diplomat after working on Wall Street and then joining the Peace Corps, which goes from one side of the of business to the other. Since I've gone overseas, I've been fascinated by other cultures, which started about 30 years ago, I guess, and not just going to buy trinkets at the iron market or art or go see music, but to live with the people in a country and to get to know them a little. I was lucky to get into diplomacy as in my mid-30s, and I tell many people, had I not failed in other jobs in the past, I would not have become a diplomat. But when I became a diplomat, as soon as I got to my first post, which was Guadalajara, Mexico, where I was sitting on the visa line deciding whether people got visas or not, I was pretty humbled to be given that decision-making authority. And I took it pretty seriously because I was affecting people's lives with the decisions I made. But as soon as I got there, I knew that was the career for me because it gave me an opportunity to engage, to share with, learn from people of all walks and cultures and races and ethnicities around the world, and just fascinating.
Your last job was as US Special Envoy to Haiti, which was one of the highest level at the State Department. But tell us about some of the positions that you occupied before you become like Special Envoy to Haiti.
Well, my first job was doing visa interviews and providing services for American citizens like passports and welfare and whereabouts, etc. I went back to Washington. I worked in the operations center where I had to brief the Secretary of State in the middle of the night, a couple nights in a row. And I was the housing officer at our embassy in London, where the houses are really small and far, and everybody's unhappy. So that if you don't learn to become a diplomat there, you never will. I then also served in Luxembourg, in the heart of Europe. I was in Iraq for about 2.5 years as a civilian, working in provincial reconstruction teams out in the provinces, doing development projects and becoming, performing diplomacy with the provincial actors. The current prime minister of Iraq was the governor of Maysan province when I was in Maysan, and I know him very well, actually. And I was also blessed to have the opportunity to serve in Colombia, where I oversaw our counter narcotics efforts for several years as part of Plan Colombia, and learned an awful lot about law enforcement and military and the ability to provide security, et cetera. And then I was fortunate enough to serve in Haiti, and then right on the other side of the island in Santo Domingo, off to Afghanistan, back to Washington, where I served as a executive kind of type in international narcotics and law enforcement, where we worked on issues like cybercrime and wildlife trafficking and all the bigger issues. That is the bureau in the State Department that built the Haitian police back in the day. And then I was blessed to have the opportunity to be the ambassador to Zambia, obviously, for a couple of years before I had the opportunity to serve briefly as the special envoy for Haiti.
So you have like a very lengthy career, and you resign in protest 2 years or more uh, from the State Department as a diplomat, which was a very high level job, and maybe not the best paying, but at least with decent pay, a lot of privilege, just to stand with people from the little island of Haiti, not very well known for many people in the US, that have you make you lost a lot of privilege, maybe a lot of friends from the State Department. Why is that?
So diplomacy is about promoting the interests of one's own country. I'm American, so my job was to promote American interests. America first. Donald Trump didn't invent that. That's what diplomats do. However, good diplomats are able to do America first or Haiti first or whatever their country of origin is much better if they're able to find synergy with the host nation. For instance, when I'm in Haiti, when I'm in Zambia, the Zambians, and find ways to promote U.S. interests while also benefiting the people in the country and the leaders in the country where you're working. And when you can do that, then you're doing good diplomacy. You have good access. You're able to help leaders build their countries the way they want to, as opposed to just some dumb American ideas that work in America but don't work in the rest of the world. So when I saw U.S. policy in Haiti going south and realized that my ability to stop it and turn it around was nil, I could no longer look myself in the mirror, because what the U.S. continues to do in Haiti is persecute the poor Haitian person on the street by withholding security and all the other essential services a government should provide by backing the president, the de facto president, the anointed president, Ariel Henry.
You you you
So
you took a lot of heat for that, whether from State departments, other career diplomat, former diplomat, and some accuse you, not being a diplomat, because diplomat usually don't talk like that. You are very outspoken. How did you deal with that after your resignation?
so the people who criticize me publicly are people that criticize others publicly often, and they're all political appointees largely. None of them know me. So when I came out strongly with a pretty clear message of my thoughts on Haiti, they turned to the old attack political playbook, I think. So it didn't really hurt my feelings. It amused me a little bit, especially when they were calling me a toxic personality. And I got many dozens of calls from my former teammates and subordinates and employees from around the world, and none of them called me toxic. So it's what governments do and politicians do when somebody takes a stand against what they're doing, whether it's right or wrong. Um, like you said, I never got rich as a diplomat, but I liked it. It was a great career, and I thought I was good at it. So while I've lost a little bit of an opportunity to have teams and maybe be an ambassador again or something like that, I'm richer in the fact that I know that we're going to have a positive impact on Haiti at some point as soon as I can get the United States out of the way.
Things hasn't changed that much since you resigned. Things become much worse, and it seems like the U.S. is not really, the U.S. government is not really inclined to take on your advice, which was the best, like for from the Asian perspective. Uh, how do you analyze the situation right now? Or I should say, why do you think US is always on the wrong side of Haiti? A poor small nation with less than 12 million people. We don't have nuclear power. We don't have even enough to feed our own people. So we are almost like harmless. Why do you think US is so tough on the Haitian people from a diplomatic standpoint?
Well, Manuel, I think if you look through history, we won't go all the way back, but from 1915, when the Marines came in and administered Haiti after the assassination of President Guillaume Sam, to supporting the Duvaliers, to intervening and replacing Aristide as president, and then taking him out and ensuring that Sweet Mickey made it into the second round of the elections, despite the fact he was the number 3 vote getter. Those are examples of anointing Ariel Henry. Those are examples of the U.S. intervening politically and often militarily. And I think it's because, as I said before, they're there to promote U.S. interests, but they're clumsy diplomats. They're not good diplomats. They don't think like some of us do, and they never thought about Haitian needs or wants or challenges. And as a result, every time we do something, it turns out to be the wrong thing to do because we don't listen to the people who live on that island, because our policy in our foreign policy in the United States is still highly racist, and it's still based on the Jeffersonian uh, adage that these dumb black people can't govern themselves. I heard it spoken in the State Department. I heard that term. I never heard it in a big meeting, but I heard people, geez. So uh, as long as we're trying to impose order on Haiti, it's never going to work. The Haitians, as we all know, want order. They want security. They want a functioning government. They want to get rid of corruption and gangs and all the horrendous things that have occurred on that island. But they can't do it when they're being held politically hostage right now. I
Mhm.
like to think, Emmanuel, although I'm not 100% sure, but I like to think in the past, it was always that the US was just kind of clumsy, going for its own interests. Nobody or very few of us ever really sat down and tried to figure out, what do the Haitians need? Not what does Haiti need, because how the hell am I going to know what Haiti needs? Because I'm not Haitian. What does Haiti need? And the Haitians know that. And if they are provided ownership of a process to develop and rehabilitate and make things better and move in a positive direction there, then things will go in that direction. And
I'm glad you spoke about I would say like a racist diplomacy concept, but there's been an effort for many years trying to alleviate that for other countries. We see how US is trying to approach like Africa. We see the summit like last year with most of the African leaders, but it seems like when it comes to Haiti, like there is there's a contempt. Some people say just because Haiti there to get its freedom, like by the arms, and then like US, like the Western powers, they don't want Haiti to set the example as like a successful nation. Otherwise, it could be a failure for them, for France, Germany, for the US. But it was like many years ago, more than like 200 something years, and they are still pressing the same. And in Haiti, people tend to think there's a the deep state like against the Haitian people trying to have us fail. And I don't invite you to speculate on that, but beyond the Jefferson diplomacy that is still there, do you think like there is a coordinated effort between the West to keep Haiti like the way it is, so we never get like on our foot to govern ourselves?
and I think that's a fair question and a good question. And a tough question. I, unfortunately, as you know, I'm kind of naive. I believe people at the root are good, and by treating them the right way, we can do good things. I believe that the West has shifted the way it looks at Haiti. So in 2010, when I was right in the middle of the earthquake response and reconstruction planning and all that stuff, the world was looking to Haiti as an opportunity to show what we can do together and get in there and make it a better place. And Haiti really deserved it and stuff. But we failed, right? We completely failed, all of us. Why did we fail? I believe we failed because we did not include the Haitians in the planning for the reconstruction. So we were building like toilets that you'll never use, or trying to get you to do farming techniques that aren't culturally acceptable, or crazy things like that. Now, so from 2010, Michel Martelly gets elected. Jovenel Moise gets elected. Politically, things just keep getting kind of further and further and further away from the Constitution. Nobody really does anything in the international community. And now I think some of these people, for instance, Brian Nichols, the assistant secretary in the Department of State who oversees this hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, this might be the third time he's worked on Haiti. So I think he might have worked on Haiti in 1994, in 2006, and now he's working on it again. And I think these people are looking at it and saying, oh my God, all this can do is make me fail or make me look bad. So they're just trying to ignore Haiti. They're trying to have the Kenyans figure out how to fix Haiti. Kenyans can't even figure out how to fix Kenya, my friend. I've been there myself several times. And that just keeps slipping and slipping and slipping. So I don't think, although there might be, and maybe I'm too nice on people, but I don't think that there's a conspiracy to keep Haitians down because they're the only slave republic that ever liberated itself. I think that over time, people have realized that if we do the same thing that we always do in Haiti, which is put Ariel Henry in there, let him steal, let him hold elections, maybe Martelly comes back, you have another corrupt kleptocracy stealing all the money. Nobody wants that to happen. So, and nobody has the guts or the courage to give a leap of faith to the Haitians and let the Haitian political consensus set the political foundation that Haiti has needed for 219 years in order to get where it needs to be. It's never had that. It's always somebody trying to move somebody out of power for some other reason. The people deserve the right to speak. And now is the time for the people to get the right to speak. And I think at some point, the people are going to rise up and take the right to speak.
Yeah, but there is a double standard. Like the US opened a full investigation after the presidential election in 2016 because like Russia trying to meddle in the election, and they spent like several millions. And for some American US citizen to listen to that say, oh, what is that? Like the US meddle on any other country's election, trying to impose things that they don't like to be doing in the US. Why is that like this double standard beyond the, racist concept diplomacy that is they keep, but why the standard cannot be the same for all people? It's that we don't meddle on election year and then we don't do it in other countries.
No, I agree. And we finally got a taste of our own medicine, right? In 2016 and 2020, because Vladimir Putin from Russia and his people intervened and changed our election results to some extent, right? We don't know how much. It's always going to be in a country's best interest, the US best interest, to have certain leaders elected in certain places. But that doesn't mean that we have any right to impede democracy, to like jump in the middle of democracy and put our finger on the scale. We can't do that. We can't say we want democracy and at the same time say, well, Jude Celestin got the second most votes in 2010, but Hillary Clinton likes Michel Martelly, so we'll put him to the runoff. You can't do that. And we're seeing this right now, Emmanuel, and I think Haitians and people all over the world are going to rejoice a little bit in a case of Schadenfreude, where the US, nobody trusts us. Nobody trusts us anymore. You see Biden, you see what's going on in the Middle East. Nobody trusts us. Everyone, and that's why I fear we could be moving towards World War III, because nobody trusts us. And China and Russia are trying to take advantage of that, and they're going to pull malign activities, and we will see what happens. But the United States has certainly lost its leadership role in the world.
So we're going to take a short break, Ambassador Foote, and when we come back, we're going to talk about after the earthquake in Haiti, which was a crucial moment for the nation. A lot of money has been spent, and with very little result when we come back.
Vous voulez toujours été informé sur ce qui passe en Haïti tant ou à l'étranger? Non, c'est le rendez-vous. Zoom Haiti News, à Caribbean Television Network.
Alexa, what are the latest news from the Caribbean Television Network?
From Caribbean Television Network News. Even in his inability to lead, Ariel Henry enjoys the support of the United States. From Zoom Haiti News Daily. The Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, Todd D. Robinson, reiterated the United States' support for the Haitian government in the fight against insecurity.
Zoom Haiti News, français. L'ex-ministre de l'Agriculture, des Ressources naturelles et du Développement rural, David Nicolas, est mort.
En Zoom Haiti News español, el gobierno de Biden agradece la colaboración de las autoridades haitianas en la gestión del expediente de migrantes irregulares devueltos al país.
We're talking to former Ambassador Dan Foote. He was Special Envoy to Haiti in his last post. The US and the international community, they spent several billion in Haiti in 2010, and some people accuse Hillary Clinton of becoming richer in Haiti as a result of this massive earthquake. And you were in Haiti working, and I'm not trying to ask you to accuse anyone from corruption, but why do you think we lost this first ever opportunity after this earthquake, despite that much money has been raised, but with very little things to do? Why is that? What is your understanding on that?
I think that there are a number of reasons. So the US Congress appropriated $5.1 billion, and the total of the donor community pledged money was $14 billion. Um, it's unclear how much of that money was ever spent, right? Nobody ever kept track. I'm sure the US's money we keep track, but a lot of it did not get delivered, or if it did, it didn't make it into the hospitals or roads or buildings or whatever that were planned for it. So that's part of the reason that some of the money was siphoned off. A lot just never made it there. I think, and I've said this before, the biggest problem is at least the United States, and I'm sure the other donors as well. But I sat in the meeting room at the embassy in Port-au-Prince, right there on Rue 15 d'Octobre in Tabar, and I watched us plan to spend that $5.1 billion. And there were no Haitians in the room. I mean, there were a couple. There was like a couple engineers from the embassy, but they worked for the embassy. They're not going to say anything, right? And I remember at the time leaning over to a friend saying, this is not going to work. And that friend kind of agreed with me. So we know now very well the United States knows how not to fix Haiti. We're very good at it. We've done it a number of times. We've gone in and tried to fix it and made it worse, made corruption worse, made security worse, etc. So that's a big part of the reason. Another part of the reason is the politics, right? So the Clintons are in power at the time, and I've alluded to this a couple of times, but in 2010, as all Haitians know, the top two vote getters in the first round of the presidential election were Merlin Manigat and Jude Celestin. But somehow Hillary Clinton and her staff were able to get Michel Martelly on the second round ballot, which he won, obviously, as Sweet Mickey with his great celebrity there in the country. And I was there during the first year of President Martelly's tenure there. And he was very close to the US. He did kind of whatever he was asked to do to a large part, but he got increasingly tired of having Americans come down, particularly American women, and say, do this, do that, do it. So after about a year, they started saying, you know what, let's see what happens if we don't do what they ask us to do. And they started doing that. And Petrocaribe and all the corruption, $4 billion is missing, all other kind of accusations and data in Haiti on corruption in the Martelly administration. And then, so you didn't have a trustworthy partner on the ground in Haiti, even if the reconstruction planning was good. It wasn't. But if it was good and we were able to deliver it the way it was supposed to be, Martelly had no interest in that. Michel and his folks were self-enriching.
But he was still backed by the US, and even for now, although Canada adopted sanction, put his name on the list, even the UN, even though they are not releasing their list yet. But the US still keep a very low profile in terms of sanction against those people from Michel Martelly, the private sector. So it seems like he's still benefiting and somehow some of the support. Do you think it's the same policy that was in place like on the Barack Obama that Joe Biden is keeping in place, even the same policy that was on the Donald Trump and Biden keep applying?
I mean, could be. It's the same people making the policy as it was under Obama. The only difference is Tony Blinken was the deputy secretary of state then. Now he's the secretary of state. So that could be the case. I think that we did not know what Martelli was doing early on. And over time, we've learned. And I've learned through, how the chief of police had to resign because of politicization of the police force and Martelli trying to use them as intel on his opponents. And then they got into the cocaine trade and all that stuff that we didn't really know at the time, but I think we know now. My theory there is Michel Martelli knows too much about whatever the U.S. plans for Haiti have been.
Hmm. Yeah, so this way they could not do anything to him because his name is cited as being involved. We don't say like he's involved in the assassination of Jovenel Moise. It's not up to us to decide who was, as well as for Ariel Henry, Michel Martelly as his name, and nothing has been done the same way we saw like US is pressing for other countries to apply the rule of laws, like in Ukraine and other countries. But it seems like they blank the eye on this Jovenel Moise assassination, and the people who get convicted, those are like very low level, some Colombian who participated. It seems like we might never get the truth about that because some of the US employees get involved. It will be
I
too much
still think you
harassment.
will. Like I said 2 years ago, I still think you will. And at the time, I told you it's going to take a minimum of 18 months to 2 years before we know anything. And that's kind of where we are right now. Now that they got Badiou in custody, he's singing like a canary. All these guys who are pleading guilty in Florida, they're singing like canaries. We're going to get to the bottom of this. It's probably still going to take another year or 18 months more because the FBI is very deliberate and very precise. But I think that they're learning things and moving in the right direction. And as you've seen in Haiti, even judges want to talk to Rockefeller Vincent, the justice minister, who had to know what was going on because he was in charge of the presidential guard who did nothing, right? So there's really slow movement, but I think the amount of guys that they have and the amount of pressure that they're putting on these guys, we're going to find out. And I have my theories, but I'll hold them to myself, or you can Google and find them online somewhere.
From this point, Ambassador Foote, it seems like Ariel Henry might stay longer in power than Jovenel Moise, who was elected, and
Ridiculous.
US is very comfortable with that if the Asian people are not doing anything, because you see the former people in the opposition who usually were very much outspoken against Jovenel
Right.
Moise.
They all have sanctions against them now.
And then now they are in Ariel Henry pocket. Why do you think now, it's the rule of law is no longer matter when it's come to Ariel Henry? Yeah, maybe he's willing to give more to the US than Jovenel Moise was willing to give. Why do you think he's still in power despite he's very unpopular and then he's
in Haiti, right? I believe Ariel Henry does everything that he's asked to do by the United States, and that's why he stays in power. However, even the United States is growing increasingly uncomfortable with him in power because he's done nothing and the people hate him. He's, as you said, he's very unpopular. But they don't have a better idea. And they, like I said, they don't have the courage to say, we are removing support for this guy, figure it out. In which case, the opposition, political leaders, civil society, leaders across society are going to come together like in 1986 and put something together. And they already have so much of that work done that I think within 4 to 8 weeks, you have a new government that the people support if they remove their support for Ariel Henry.
Do you have any credible information that US might drop its support to Ariel Henry anytime soon?
Absolutely not.
Because
No.
I see the ambassador who replaced Helen Lalime at the Benin. She has the very same position. If like she recently said, if there should be any election in Haiti, Ariel Henry should be the guy to organize this election. It seems like the core group, like US, Canada, France, they are very comfortable with Ariel Henry, even if, like, they acknowledge privately or is not capable of changing anything.
I mean, all they're going to do is make us right if they let Ariel Henry hold elections. Everybody knows it. But again, that nothing's happening. I read today that the Kenyan mission has been postponed at least until January 26th because the Kenyan Supreme Court want some answers. They don't want these guys going to Haiti. So this may never happen. And if that never happens, you'll never have elections and Ariel will always be in power. So as I've said before, if I was in Haiti, I'm not. And if I was a young leader and a guy there, I might try to start a political movement myself to establish some grassroots leadership fed by the people in that country.
Do you see any leader in Haiti that is capable of doing that? It seems like everybody now is not really interested or just some kind of ministerial position in Ariel Henry government, and they are okay with that. And
yeah, I don't think that there are any powerful politicians running around down there that we know of, like active ones who have been involved over the past 20 years. But I'm sure that there are some young people down there. And I see nothing. I mean, in the past, when it was bad in the past, you had Padre or Aristide out raising the people, right? And it's not happening because the gangs, it's too dangerous, and there's no political space because Ariel isn't giving it to them. But that's something you got to take sometimes.
did the US put, the FBI put one of the Haitian toughest gang, Vitellum, in a wanted list, and that make people in Haiti laugh. They say, US know where to get Vitellum, and it's kind of a joke. Do you think they are very serious about wanting Vitellum?
I mean, again, why? I've never seen a Haitian on the top 10 FBI most wanted list. This is like across the whole world. He's the number 10 guy that we want. Guy Philippe, nobody was on that list before. I think it's just a political. I think it's just a political to say, oh yeah, we're taking insecurity in Haiti seriously. Look, we sanction these guys. He's on this list. Nothing. It's just empty noise and paper that accomplishes nothing. And until Ariel Henry leaves the palace or wherever he administers his non-existent government, the Haitian people can't move forward and they're not going to accept elections. So let him hold elections and it's going to be just like after Moise was elected. And, 3/4 of the country's not going to, everybody knows where it's going to go if Ariel's part.
So you met Ariel Henry when you were in Haiti. Do you think he was at the beginning serious enough, like showing some willingness to do anything compared to the other guy, Claude Joseph, who were before him?
No, I don't. And I'll give you an example why. I at least saw some leadership talent in Claude Joseph. I don't know him very well. I've only talked to him 10 or 12 times. But I saw some Haitian nationalism, some desire for sovereignty, and some leadership there. He stepped in and said, look, the Constitution's broken, but I'll be in charge. I met Ariel, and, it's like zero charisma, someone who has had their personality surgically removed. And within a few days of meeting him, you had the 2021 earthquake and hurricane down in the South, right? And good friends of mine at one of the NGOs got down there very quickly before the hurricane and had a bunch of tarps. And Ariel Henry would not let anybody distribute tarps before the hurricane came in to keep people sheltered and dry, because he didn't want the international community to see any more refugee camps like after the earthquake. At which point I called Claude Joseph and told him, he was still part of the government at this time, and told him, Claude, I don't know about you, but I'm telling these guys to give out tents down there. And he was like, fine. So Ariel couldn't even make the humane decision to let his people get sheltered during a hurricane because he thought it would hurt his political reputation internationally.
And he is doing the same thing with Nicaragua by blocking the possibility for Haitian to go to Nicaragua, even Brazil for now, which make people very angry in Haiti because that was one of the way for them to flee Haiti, come to the US, and now it's for most of them there's no hope because they will never get any visa to come here. The only way for them was walking down the jungle and
Right, the
diving
Darien
for rice.
Gap and paying the smuggler coyotes and jumping on and off railroads, and just a terrible way to get there. And people will always figure out how to get there. But if we continue to eliminate options for Haitians, it becomes more like a cage down there. It becomes more like Gaza, for instance. And eventually the people can't take it. They're people need some say in their lives and in their countries, and Haitians have zero right now.
But why Dan Foote? You have a lot of experience in Haiti. You talk to a lot of politicians that maybe are more open to you than to the Haitian people. Why do you think, even for the Haitian politicians, they almost all of them mostly interested in staying in power, doing whatever they can, even if it means hurting their own people? Have you seen any willingness, like in some of the leaders you have experience with? You can say some name if you want to say, oh, this guy, he wanted to do something good for his people. It's most of them, they only see for their own pockets and their own family members.
Well, and I think that's because democracy has never been given a chance to work in Haiti. So you have elections, and if they work, they very rarely work. But if they work, then Raul Cedras comes in with a coup and kicks them out, or we find out that the 2015 election was not a good election, and stuff. So without democracy, or with a troubled democracy, that puts things in a tough place right there.
So do you see any politician, like Asian politician, you say, oh,
So
this guy
yes, I
was
have seen and I know a number of Haitian politicians who want what's best for Haiti, but because democracy is never respected, or the Haitians might respect democracy, but then the internationals come in and do it. So when someone gets put into power undemocratically, they know that chances of democracy working fast are not very good. So that's why in Haiti, it's always been about getting the power and holding the power. Because if you're in the power, you're the boss. You can take whatever you want. You guys know how that works. And that has never changed because the people can't trust the democratic process, because the US over the past 100 years, every time it starts to work, we come in and turn it on its head because we don't like something, or we come in and make Ariel Henry the de facto prime minister because it's the lazy, easy thing to do, because Martelly was bothering President Moise about appointing him. You need to appoint him. You need to appoint him. You need to appoint him. He signed the paper appointing him, then got killed. Boy, that's kind of odd, huh?
Yeah, in Ariel Henry, people say Himmler Rebbe, I don't know to what extent it's true. Jovenel Moise trying to install Ariel Henry before they kill him. Ariel Henry said, no, he's not interested now. Let's wait until Jovenel was assassinated. We don't know to what extent that is true. But another point, I see there is a, improvement on the relationship between the Dominican Republic and the US. President Biden hosted recently President Luis Abinader, who is very hostile to the Haitian people protesting, sending troops to the border to protest against a very small canal who cannot do anything. And just recently, he sent some soldier crossing the border to go to Haiti to do things, and US is quiet. But do you think US might be relying on the Dominican Republic now, to do things like whatever they want, however they want in Haiti? It seems like Abinader has more blessing now.
Yeah, I hope not, right? Because and I don't think the US trusts the Dominican Republic that much, because it wasn't that long ago that we were in there militarily too, right? So but it's a troublesome situation. The ties are close, and I don't think the US wants the Dominicans to take care of the problem, but they want somebody else to take care of the problem. So if the Dominicans can close that border, and the Kenyans can come in with these ones, and the Chilenos and all these guys that don't speak Creole, then it'll work. But I think that the Dominicans largely are not on the side of the Haitian people. They're terrified of mass migration and stuff like that, despite the fact that they need the circular migration because Haitians do all the hard work in the Dominican Republic. And I think you can see a little bit about how President Abinader thinks when the Haitians are in the midst of this horrendous series of crises, and Abinader is making a big deal about the Rio Massacre, which is called the Massacre River because President Trujillo of the Dominican Republic killed 30,000 Haitians there like 90 years ago. I mean, come on. He is trying to take water away from the Haitians. Now, what else can we take away from the Haitians? Air?
Yeah, but Abinader, bizarrely, it looks like someone who, if he could have any guarantee from the US, like in Netanyahu style, he would be willing to go do the exact same thing that Trujillo did, several
Right,
decades
right,
ago. It's my own, it's my own
right.
opinion. I haven't seen any facts to back that.
No, anything's possible. The Dominicans are not capable of rolling, and their military is not strong enough to fight 12 million people or 6 million or however many Haitians come out to fight them. So, yeah, and they don't have enough money to do it either. So it's just they want to close the border so that the door only opens one way, and that's to let Dominican goods into Haiti. So, and then the money gets wired back there. They don't want anything going from Haiti into the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm. Last segment, Ambassador Foote, to talk about the situation in Gaza right now, where there are 1,400 people killed in Israel, and from now there's like almost like 12,000 from what the authority in Gaza said killed. And the US came very strong for Israel, and then now there's a lot of protests like each week, every weekend in the US and other countries asking for a ceasefire, criticizing the way the US respond to the situation in Gaza. It's like dehumanizing people in Gaza. It's not that what Hamas did was good. Hamas, like, is a terror organization. It should be condemned.
Oh, it was horrendous. It was
It's,
as bad a human behavior as you can have. They're savages.
yeah, but why should, like, the innocent people in Gaza and Palestine pay the price for militants like in Hamas? How do you understand the US stand in this war?
So the U.S. has always backed Israel 100% since it was formed in 1948 out of the wake of the Holocaust and 6 million Jews getting killed, right? But the problem is that land for the last 2,000 years, because Jews had migrated all over the world, that land was in Israel was largely occupied by Palestinians who had been there the whole time back to the days of Christ and when the Jews were there. So when the state of Israel was put back there, a lot of the Palestinians lost their land. And this was 75 years ago. So the old people now remember, as kids getting kicked out of their land and never able to go back. So obvious, and the U.S. has also given Israel over the past several years about $3 billion a year, and we've been doing this for 70 years. We've been giving and selling Israel a ton of weapons because they're in a bad neighborhood, and we want to make sure there's never another Holocaust, right? But what Israel has wound up doing, because the Palestinians are like, you took our land. All we want a land and we want a government, right? And they understand they're not even going to get their old land back. They just need land. So Israel crams them all in the West Bank and Gaza and doesn't really let them leave or go. And Gaza, Hamas was elected in 2006. That was another case where the U.S. rushed elections when a population wasn't ready, and Hamas won, much to our surprise. They've been ruling Gaza since then, not the West Bank, which is ruled by the Palestinian Authority. And Hamas is a terrorist organization, as you saw in that terrible attack on October 7th. Gaza has become like a giant cage, is what people talk about. It's surrounded on four sides, one by Egypt, two by Israel, one by the Mediterranean. And Israel has held that place siege since, I think, 2016, this current time. So they have enabled a ton of things to be imported in there. And life is very hard on the Palestinians. There's no jobs, and they're under constant state of siege. So when Hamas, it's a little more complicated. You're aware of the fact that the United States, before this Hamas attack, was right on the precipice of a deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel, whereby Saudi Arabia would actually recognize Israel's right to exist, which it's never done, which is a huge deal. And there was other stuff involved. But the problem, no, they didn't address Palestine. They didn't address the Palestinians. Where are they going to live? What's the two-state solution? So I believe Hamas, and probably rightfully so, we're like, oh my God, we're backed into a corner. If this happens, we may never have a chance. And I think that's why they carried out this horrendous attack, because now they think they can maybe get Israel to overreact, as they're kind of doing. Israel has never been good at reacting reciprocally and proportionally, although this is a horrendous attack. But civilians don't deserve to die anywhere.
Why do you think it's come off very contentious topic to talk about, like on the campus university, some people, either you stand on Israel's side and then you would like to destroy everyone in Gaza, or you stand with
Right.
the Palestinian people, but you cannot condemn. So what Hamas did and say Israel is wrong and not to being accused of being anti-Semite, or so it's there's a fine line, and a lot of people, they don't want to go there because you see how
Right. It's
you had.
controversial, right? There's
Yes.
no good answer. There-
Y-
there- it's all black and white. We've lost because of guys like President Trump and Hugo Chavez and Putin and idiots like that. We've lost our ability to have a conversation, to debate different colors of the same subject, right? So it's a complicated situation, and you need to empathize with the Israelis who were sitting in their freaking houses, and these savages came in and killed them for no reason other than to draw attention and start a war on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you got to realize that you have little poor kids and babies and mothers who don't have jobs and live in these apartments without electricity and stuff in Gaza, and they're bombing their buildings and killing them. And where are these people supposed to go? It's like we want you guys to evacuate to the south, and they can go to the south, they can go to North Gaza, but they can't leave Gaza. What? How do you evacuate? So they're like in jail. They're in a jail that's being bombed. So
So do you
we
think the situation become worse when Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel capital, which was not the case for many, many uh, decades? Like, do you think that's complicate the situation a little bit?
definitely, because it did a couple things. It invigorated the hard right in Israel, who since then have been very anti-Palestine, trying to build up their defenses and actually given weapons to settlers to go on the offense against Gazans and stuff like that. And it also kind of showed the world again that the United States is always going to be with Israel. So that when this happens, and it was terrible, 1,200 people got killed in a horrendous series of attacks on October 7th by these maniac Hamas guys. Since then, 12,000 people have been killed in Gaza because we're trying to get the Hamas guys. That's way too much
Yeah,
collateral.
but the Israel spokesperson, when the Hamas do the attack in the early days, she seems to say that everybody in Gaza has some kind of responsibility, and then they are, and like in their words, like human animals, like everybody. And I heard like people in Congress in the US say that Gaza need to turn into a parking lot, and everybody seems to be fine with that. But when a congresswoman, the only Palestinian in Congress, she
Right,
said
she's
like, from the
alive,
river to
right?
the sea, which is a little bit controversial, but she has an explanation for that. She was censured. So there was the same two double standard, like what is need to be
Totally,
condemned for Palestine, but
totally.
cannot be condemned for Israel.
Totally. And we need to be, it, the world needs to look at this through a fair lens and realize that the civilians in the kibbutzim in Israel that got killed, innocent civilians, that's a terrible thing. And they did not deserve that. Nobody ever deserves that in their homes. By the same token, the innocent people in Gaza don't deserve that. And the Israelis don't have the right to do that. I don't think there are ways to go after Hamas. Unfortunately, to a certain extent, the Hamas is a product of the oppression in Palestine. And I'm not trying to rationalize it or justify it. It's just the case. And
Mhm.
it's only going to get worse doing it.
And do you think the legitimate Palestine government, do you think they have a role to play in that? It seems like US is interested in giving them money for
No,
humanitarian reason and giving Israel
no.
for
You've
development.
seen you've seen Mahmoud Abbas, right? He's like 90 years old. He's even older than Biden and Trump. I don't even think he knows what day it is. He's the head of the Palestinian Authority. They have been pretty useless since 2006. And again, the US is just kind of coming up with this fantasy that, oh, wouldn't it be great if a reconstituted Palestinian Authority could step forward and lead? It's like, what, you snap your fingers and reconstitute it? Again, it's got to be tied to the people. And we just have these crazy ideas and fantasies that we think will work, and they don't work, has been my experience over the
How
last
do
30
you
years.
anticipate this war will end? Will Israel ever just back down and then stop, bombarding innocent people, innocent civilian, and then so they agreed to the ceasefire, which was voted by the UN Security Council?
I mean, the best we can hope for is that this ends quickly, and Israel feels that it has damaged Hamas enough that it can stop, that it can better protect innocent civilians. If they decide that they're going to remove Hamas and all these tunnels, it will become a parking lot, because Gaza is arguably the most booby trap place on the planet. And if they're going to carry out urban warfare there, it is not going to be pretty. And the biggest fear, I think, is the innocent civilians in the region is a huge thing, but the bigger fear is Iran, who sponsors many of
Yeah,
these.
but on that note, why do you think, the Arab governments like the UN, Jordan, other countries, they don't come stronger to, they condemn and they ask for ceasefire, but we don't see them fully supported like the Palestinian people. I'm not talking about the Hamas, but
No, I know you're talking about the government of Lebanon, the government of Syria, the government of
yeah, why
Jordan,
do you think they don't come stronger for the
because
Palestine?
they can't take any more Palestinians. Lebanon and Jordan both have millions of Palestinians, refugees in their countries, and they're also kind of at war with Israel. So, they've never stopped fighting. They're not fighting right now, but there's a big fear that if Syria, Lebanon, and or Jordan start fighting Syria, then all of a sudden we might need to get involved. Then Iran, it's just, we could see with the wild cards of Russia, who's been very active in Syria over the past 10 years, and China, we could see World War III come out of this, because you're seeing the whole world, the whole southern, what do we call it now? There's a world for the least developed countries, which are mainly in the southern hemisphere.
Well,
But
Russia has adopted a very settled stance on that. They don't stand against the Israel. They don't stand against Hamas. They're trying to play in the middle, which is a surprise for many, given the involvement of Russia in Ukraine. How do you understand like Russia involvement in this issue?
Russia and Putin is just trying to use this for his own benefit. He does not care about Palestinians or Israelis. Remember, he and Netanyahu were close allies, way closer than Biden and Netanyahu, until recently, when he invaded Ukraine again. But Netanyahu never spoke out against it, because he wanted to stay buddies. And now all of a sudden Putin's taken the opposite side, anti-Israel, because he thinks he can rally all of the world that's anti-US, anti-Israel, anti-Western dominance, and maybe get more people on his side. And I think he's having some success doing it.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Foote. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and we have a very, very meaningful conversation about the situation in Haiti and the war in Gaza. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this captivating journey through the Caribbean and beyond. As we said, we did not speak only about the Caribbean, but also talk about other countries. And we hope today's episode has provided you with some very fresh perspective, deepen your understanding, and you can return back to listen to our podcast. We would be happy if you could please subscribe, leaving a review, or sharing with friends and family. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you so much. See you next episode.